Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am really nervous to talk about today's topic, but before I jump into that, I just want to say thank you for everybody who subscribed, who watched my first video, who commented. It was a very nerve-wracking experience to just announce and even to do that video, so I'm beyond grateful for the love and support that I was shown. Hopefully you'll lend me that same kindness today, because I'm even more nervous today to be talking than I was to even announce my channel. So kind of crazy, but yeah, here we go. In light of all of the racial injustice that we have seen within the past week, it is not something that is unfamiliar to me. I filmed an entire video ready for last week, filmed, edited, music, literally everything, down to it being a few times watching it through and just making sure it was final and good. I filmed the video and I rewatched it and it felt so disingenuous. It didn't feel like it really came from me, which sucks because it did. I have my computer here because I wrote down notes. What I did last week for that video, I wrote everything down and I spoke it because it's my experience, and I read it and I watched the video back and I was it felt scripted, and literally the whole point of this channel is to be authentic and honest. Those were literally my words. And even though it was authentic, it was honest. I think since I was just reading my own feelings, it didn't feel very heartfelt. So I scrapped it. And I want to start again and see if I can better express what I want to say and just talk more about what I'm going through. I've been to several protests last week, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I have ever encountered. To see Los Angeles come together like that in all these different aspects. The first one I went to was the West Hollywood, the LGBTQ community all came through and marched with Black Lives Matter. That was my first protest that I've literally ever been to. And it was so I was we are in the middle of a historic moment. And I feel so proud to be where I am and to be with who I was with and to be protesting and declaring this injustice and wanting more for myself, for my future kids, for my friends. It was seriously one of the most powerful moments that I've ever encountered. I went to another really powerful march. These all have been insane, but I went to one in Pasadena with a great friend of mine, and at the end, they gathered people to, if they wanted to share thoughts or if they had songs or poems to speak to. And someone got up and they talked about sharing on our platforms and just talking to people. And the point of this movement, of course, is to fix the injustices that Blacks have seen for 400 years. But he also was the way that we're best going to portray those to our friends, our family, people who follow us, acquaintances, coworkers, is to tell our story. And I was he's right. I need to tell my story and my experiences, because everyone's experience is being Black, any minority, it's so different than another person. And so that's what's so unique about everyone's experiences. And so I feel very compelled to share my experience. I think coming from my situation, it's just so different. I was adopted when I was very young, and I moved to Utah, a very predominantly white state with two white mothers. And that is very strange, especially in Utah. I think it rocks, but Utah, especially in Salt Lake City, it's predominantly Mormons. To be a Black girl adopted by two women in Salt Lake City, Utah was a little unheard of. And so I feel my experience kind of all over the place. I've experienced the LGBTQ community since I was literally 4 days old until now. And I will continue to be an advocate and an ally for them because I just love the LGBTQ community. growing up, and I've had very different rare experiences that I didn't really know were acts of racism. And that even feels harsh to say. I call it microaggressions because it wasn't a flat out person like being overtly racist to me, but it was little things that I just think were the act of ignorance, like people not really knowing better, or that that's not okay and just continue like enacting on it. And since that was the community I was raised in, I didn't really know any better, but there were certain things that felt like icky to me, like in my gut, but I didn't know if I was being overly sensitive, if that was actually something to worry about, you know. But obviously now looking back, I'm older and I'm able to look back and I'm like, oh yeah, those weren't good experiences, or those weren't good comments that you endured. Like, I don't know how or why I just didn't say anything when it happened. Probably because I wasn't super educated. I remember telling several friends, like, sometimes I forget I'm Black, and like we all would like giggle about it because it's like, how do you forget the color of your skin? But a lot, like, I don't spend 100% of the time looking at myself in the mirror when I'm talking to people because I'm looking at them. And when you look at another person, I feel like you see reflections of yourself in them. So looking around, and all I was seeing was like white, blondes, brunettes. And so I kind of just was like, oh, same. I am seeing this. So that's like a reflection of myself. But then I'd get home and I'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have very different colored skin. My features are much different than my friends are. And like, I'm different. It's hard to be different when you're growing up, and especially in a community where everyone's predominantly white, everyone is predominantly LDS or Mormon, and I wasn't those things. So I really, for lack of better phrasing, I really felt like the black sheep, Black, not Mormon, 2 lesbian moms, weird ass family tree that I love because it made me who I am, but it's like, I'm not your regular Utah gal. And that was a really hard pill to swallow, especially in my teens. Being like a child, you don't really realize it because you're kind of just like, everyone's great because you're a kid and kids are so pure. But growing up in my teens, I was like, I just felt so weird, but I never really knew how to articulate what I was feeling because I didn't know really about the microaggressions or the little tiny acts of racism that were like sprinkled here and there that I just didn't occur to me. Most of my experiences and memories are from high school. I became friends with somebody and they had asked me, oh, like, is it cool if I call you the N-word because we're friends? And I was like, no, like, that's like the biggest act. And they were like, that's okay though, because you can call me cracker. And I was like, those aren't the same thing because you're not saying one of those words. And I don't like, I try to express how awful that question was, but also being a sophomore in high school, I was just like, no, like that's like, I feel uncomfortable using that word and I would hate if you would call me that because it doesn't mean what you think. It's not like, hey buddy, hey pal. It's a slur. It's a put down and it's not okay. And they kind of got it. And I was just like, if you call me that, like we're not going to be friends. And they're like, okay, I understand. And I was like, okay. And I wish in that moment I had a not better understanding, because I obviously knew that that's not an appropriate word, but like a more adequate way of articulating my feelings and like really talking about to the injustice that that question had. I had to write these down because I forgot. When it was summertime and we would all have a little barbecue, people would be like, oh, like, do you want watermelon? I don't really like watermelon. I think it just has a lackluster flavor, whatever. But someone came up and they were like, you don't like watermelon? Like, is that not like encoded in your DNA? What? Why? How does a taste of food be encoded in my DNA? Like, no, I don't really care for fried chicken. Like, I think KFC is blech, and watermelon just is water. So it's like, I just enjoy water, so I'm just going to drink it in its regular form. But it was weird that she came up to me thinking that it was okay to joke about how I don't like just classic, like, Southern foods because I'm Black. I talk about my hair a lot. Once I decided to go natural, and that was a traumatic experience. People would just like, fingers would be like deep in my afro, and they'd be like, oh, can I touch your hair? And it's like, well, you already are. Like, I would be so shook because it's like, one, that's gross. Like, I don't know where your hands have been. Also, like, why I don't just like knot my hands in your hair and be like, oh, is this cool? I like people I didn't know would do it. I think is bizarre. They tell me my hair is poofy, like a cloud. They pet me like a dog. Like that, in what world is that okay? Like to be treated like an animal and like to be pet, literally stroked. I didn't ask for it. I'm just living my own life, and then a hand would be like, can I touch your hair? No. When I was younger in my daycare, I probably was like 10. I remember somebody asked me if my skin got hotter than like a lighter skinned person. And I remember being like, well, how would I know that? I don't have a control group to test. It's not like at one point I was very white and I was like, oh wow, it took me 30 minutes to feel the heat. And now I'm black and it takes me 5 minutes to feel the heat. People would tell me like if I complain about being hot because I don't like being hot, which I feel like a lot of people don't, but they would be like, well, your ancestors are from Africa, so you should be used to the sun. Like I don't even know where my family comes from. I know I was born in South Carolina, but it's like that's all I know. That's a lie. I did a DNA test last year and my family comes from the Ivory Coast and some other places which are really cool. I used to love, like, people would call me chocolate and I was like, because chocolate's sweet, but like that's just fetishizing us and thinking that we're an item. Like my skin is dark and it makes me who I am, but it doesn't make me a tasty treat. Like I said, Utah is predominantly white, and everyone asked me if I was like more interested in black guys over white guys, and it was like, well, the test sample in front of us are predominantly white, so of course I'm going to be more attracted to a white man because there are no black men around. There was like 2 in my high school. And I also had like this weird deep-seated fear of being like that black couple. I did not want to be that black couple. I was already the token black girl, and it was so hard to think, oh, if I dated this one guy, we would become the token black couple and it would be so cute. But like, why would it be cute? Because we're the only 2 black people that everybody knew. So they just were like, oh, you guys will have to date and get to know each other, and it'll be like this cute little chocolate family. Another moment, I mean, this I feel like is just ironic. Our high school musical, my senior year, was Hairspray. And so, if you don't know the premise of Hairspray, which I hope you do because great musical, but we had like less than 10 kids of some ethnicity, people of color in my high school that were like wanting to participate in this musical. So we kind of gathered them together. There were a few blacks, like a few other people of color. And we did it was like to see how everybody interacted with each other, plus the girls who are auditioning for Tracy. And on the on the door on the outside, it said callbacks, like basically just having us all come, having us dance and see, like, vibe and just see how everybody got along. And I remember as I was leaving to the restroom, somebody like wrote in a black L. It read call black, and everybody thought it was so funny. And I just was like, what? I don't even know if they remember doing it, but like, I remember. I've been out of high school for 7 years and I still remember like who did it and everybody laughing at it. And I felt so off and like I said, icky. Like, that's not funny. It also was like kind of embarrassing to have the callbacks for like this little group of black kids when it really should have been like a bigger community, but like my community was so small. I don't want to say being black in Utah was hard. It was just different, and it definitely made me like strong, and I grew up with great friends and learning a lot about myself and kind of a curiosity to learn more. And so when I moved to LA last year, I feel like it really, like, I cracked down a wall and I was unafraid to be black. I wasn't afraid to be different because I started working and I work with people who are mostly black. Like, that just happens to be our team. And it's amazing. I learned so much about my hair. I learned different ways to do my hair. I have friends who can help me do my hair, which I think is phenomenal. I have been in the last year, I feel like I have taken my blackness and I've just become so proud of who I am. Not to say that I was ashamed of being black, but in Utah, it was like, I didn't want it to be my definition. I didn't want to be like, oh, that's my black friend Olivia. It's like, why am I your black friend? Can't you just say I'm your friend Olivia? But it's like, yeah, I'm your badass black friend named Olivia. That's just how it is. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. I think I was more afraid of myself than actually anybody else. Coming out here, meeting all my black friends, learning about Juneteenth. Like, Juneteenth, I'm so excited to celebrate this year. 9 days away. Let's go. I've learned so much more about myself. I feel like I've really stepped into the role of who I should be and who I'm able to be. And I know that there's just so much more to come. But it's carrying this load of the injustice that we're still witnessing. I only listed a few, it kind of felt like a lot, but a few of the microaggressions and the comments and the things that were said to me just in a short span of time. Those are what I can remember, but I know, sadly, that there were more things that happened. I still experience racism. Just because I moved to like a big city that's more diverse doesn't mean that racism was just like poof, gone. I still experience it. People still touch my hair. It's not something that's why I'm going to clap my hands and it's going to just disappear. It's something that we have to talk about. And I really hope whoever sees this really can talk to their friends and just educate. I'm listing a bunch of resources in the description box. I'm so thankful for the people who reached out and wanted to check on me, because it was honestly, this week was a lot. Like last week was a lot, and I spent the entire week just crying. I feel like I expected a lot from other people to like reach out or to do things, and I was vastly disappointed in the people I know. Like, that sucks to say, honestly. I don't feel like some people are really taking it seriously. People are asking me to teach them things. I don't know everything. I have to teach myself, but it's like I do know that it still happens. That's really disappointing, honestly. I have been so tired. I feel like my whole life, honestly, from experiencing injustices and microaggressions and witnessing and hearing about people getting hurt because they're Black. And we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. And really no one's done anything until now. More people need to be angry. More people need to speak up. More people need to honestly listen to each other. Yes, it's easy. It's so easy if someone's like, I worship Donald Trump and like, I think he's great for the country. It's so easy just to block them on Instagram. Like, it is so easy. But it also, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help to just cut people out. We have to continue the discussion. We have to talk about this. Or else if we just cut people out, then they're just going to keep spitting their truth to people. And then those people are just going to be like, yeah, you're right. And just keep believing it. We'll just keep living this cycle, and the cycle has to end. We can't do this anymore. Watch like any documentary, movies, podcasts, throw that on while you're driving. You'll learn so much. Audiobook. There are so many resources out there that will help us grow as a country and just as people. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. We have to create this discussion, and we have to keep the momentum going, because we have the ability to change history right now. But if we just let it die, it's just going to keep happening. And I don't want to keep living in fear, or to have my children live in fear. I hate knowing that my friends are hurting and that they're living in fear. Yeah, it's been, we have to have those hard conversations. I mean, I don't know, because I don't understand. I can't come from a place of understanding when it comes to white privilege, but it can't be comfortable to have someone tell you that you're privileged and you're like, well, but you do have that privilege. So use it to make a change. Use your voice, your platform, tell stories, talk to your family. Like, we have to be better together. If you're an ally, be an active ally, but not a passive ally. Like, maybe sit down with one of your Black friends and be like, have you ever experienced this? Like, can I hear more about that? Somebody reached out to me and asked me that question, and I honestly just like cried reading it, because I was like, literally, no one has asked me that before. I talked to my mom about my experience and even her experience raising me, and it was just like such a sombering moment between the two of us, because this is so different. And like, we really hope that this would never be the outcome, but it is. So we have to keep going. Thank you guys for watching this video. It was really nerve-wracking and a lot emotionally to unpack all of the injustice and the prejudice and the racism that is still going on. I've listed resources in the description. Please check those out. They have great like books, documentaries, TV shows, movies, podcasts, literally everything to look at. And just to get more educated, I'm diving into each one of those as I go this week, and just, to get a little bit more information on myself so I can come from a more educated place if people do ask me questions. Be kind to one another. That's all we can do. Listen to one another, and hopefully we can change the world.